He admired me more than any of them. That is what made his fall so complete. He was the mirror that sought to replace its subject, a sun who did not crave approval, but equivalence. He was born on Kamos, a world of collapse and silence where beauty had been throttled by survival. Even there he raised himself above ruin. With mind, will, and poise, he bent a dying world to order. He did not merely endure. He curated, he refined, he transformed ash into marble and squalor into symmetry. The people called him Lord, not from fear, but reverence. He was not a tyrant. He was an ideal, a prince of decay, crowned by entropy. When I found him, he was not bowed in the dirt. He was sculpting the stars. He greeted me not as a child to a father, but as a masterpiece to its muse. In him I saw brilliance unmarred by corruption, and the hunger to surpass it. He was radiant, not merely in form, but in mind. Where others saw war as necessity, Fulgrim saw it as expression. His blade was not a weapon. It was an extension of vision. The Emperor's children were broken when I gave them to him. They had been diminished, both in number and in spirit. They bore the scars of failure, and worse, mediocrity. But Fulgrim did not see ruin. He saw potential for rebirth. He did not restore them as a legion. He transformed them into legend. They did not march. They moved like dancers in gilded armor. They did not bellow. They sang. Every line of armor, every strike of the blade, every cry of battle, a performance for an audience that was always me. He never said it. He did not need to. He revered me, not as a god, but as the highest form of what he could become. That was the danger. Fulgrim did not seek to serve. He sought to embody. He walked beside Ferrus Manus, his closest counterpart. The two of them, iron and silk, discipline and expression. Together they built wonders, weapons, fortresses, marvels of form and function. Theirs was a bond of opposites, one that should have balanced them. But Fulgrim measured everything, even friendship. And when the weight of Ferrus's forge outweighed the applause of Fulgrim's gallery, a crack formed. He could not endure being second, not even to a brother he respected. Where Ferrus forged for function, Fulgrim forged for form. Where Ferrus built for purpose, Fulgrim crafted for beauty. And where Ferrus saw the value in imperfection, Fulgrim saw only failure to ascend. And I saw it all. I saw how his eyes lingered on applause, how he preened beneath adoration, how he stared into polished steel, not to check for damage, but to admire the reflection. There were moments, brief, flickering moments, where he looked at me not as son to father, but as rival to ideal. I might have intervened, but I did not from indifference, but because I believed he would master it. He had the will. He was stronger than vanity. He had to be, but perfection is a subtle poison. It does not scream. It whispers. It tells you that you are close, that one more step will complete you. That flaw is weakness, and the world must be reshaped to conceal it. When he first spoke of the blade, I dismissed it. A trophy, a relic, a curio taken from the lyre, elegant, exquisite, alien. He praised its craftsmanship, its balance, its beauty. He spoke of it not as a weapon, but as if it was speaking to him. But the blade was more than steel. It was a whisper. It fed on pride, fed on ambition, fed on the belief that to become perfect, one must first destroy what they are. And Fulgrim listened. His voice changed. His manner grew theatrical. His art decadent. What had once been elegance became excess. What had once been refinement became rot in gold leaf. The Emperor's children began to sing in battle, not chants of war, but operas. They carved not just victory, but theatre. They no longer conquered for peace or order, they conquered for an audience. And Fulgrim stood at the center, admired, elevated, unchallenged. I watched him drift. And when I finally spoke, it was already too late. He stood before me once, near the end, and what faced me was no longer my design. His words were cloaked in elegance, but beneath them there was contempt. Not open defiance, but disappointment. He believed I had withheld praise, that I refused to acknowledge his evolution. But what he had become was hollow. He still bore the blade. He called it harmless, said it spoke to him only to inspire. But I saw then he was not possessed. Not yet. He was seduced. He had invited something into himself, something that promised flawlessness. Not discipline, not clarity, just the illusion that he was already complete. Ferrus saw it, tried to reach him, tried to pull him back from the edge. And so, like all great fractures, the first to fall was the one who saw the crack most clearly. He did not mean to kill Ferrus, not at first. But in that final moment, blade met flesh, and Fulgrim, my radiant son, spilled the blood of the only brother who ever dared to tell him the truth. It broke something in him, not immediately, not visibly, but in silence. It cracked. He shattered behind the mask. He fractured in private. His grief did not scream as it bled into canvas, and then he painted Ferrus's death with his own hands, stroke by stroke, like an artist preserving the shape of his guilt. The blade whispered comfort. Chaos does not scream, it seduces. It told him Ferrus was wrong. That weakness had been cut away. That now, finally, he was free. And Fulgrim believed it. In time, the demon took him fully. The one who had sought purity became a god of corruption. He no longer hid his decadence. He became it. He shed his humanity like silk robes and donned a new skin, woven from pride, ecstasy, and delusion. Fulgrim did not resist. He did not fall screaming. He danced into damnation, arms open, eyes bright, voice singing praises unto himself. His legion followed. They did not question. They did not resist. They adored him. They worshipped him as he had once sought to become me. Their war cries became arias, their blades, brushstrokes. What once had been a legion became a choir of ruin, each one believing they were perfect because he told them so. He became a creature of impossible beauty, terrible, hypnotic, obscene. Every word he speaks is poetry, every motion performance. Even his wrath is choreographed, even his cruelty rehearsed. He tempts with truth wrapped in desire. He is what Slaanesh always craved, not merely a servant, but an avatar of excess, a god sculpted from self-love. And still, I wonder how much of him remains. Does he remember Ferrus? Does he think of the boy on Chemos, who built beauty from dust? Does he still perform for me? Even now, he creates paintings that drive men to madness, symphonies that bring worlds to ruin, architecture that cannot exist, yet does. Art so flawless, it shatters the will to resist. His perfection is no longer bound by flesh. It is abstract, viral. He infects the mind with awe. He destroys by making you love him. He enslaves with elegance, conquers with seduction. Each soul that kneels believes it does so willingly. But behind it all, there is a mask. Fulgrim wears it well. The smile, the elegance, the voice, velvet thunder, the beauty that blinds you to the void beneath. But it is a mask. Because deep within he knows he is not perfect. He never was. And now, he never can be. That is the wound he cannot show. That is the truth he must drown beneath silk and song. He sings because silence terrifies him. He poses because stillness reflects him. He performs because the play must never end. And yet, beneath all of it, there is still a glimmer, a spark, not of hope, but of memory. The demon does not own him completely. Not always, not in the quietest moments, not when the curtain falls and there is no applause. In those moments, he remembers who he was, what he could have been, and what he destroyed to become what he is. Perhaps that is why he performs. Not just for me, but for himself, to drown the sound of his own screaming. Fulgrim's tragedy is not that he was corrupted. It is that he embraced corruption and called it truth, that he built temples from lies and called them homes. And even now, as he soars through the immaterium like a comet of impossible color, trailing choirs and ruin behind him, he believes himself to be ascending still. He believes he is a god, not because he was crowned, but because no one dares tell him otherwise. His form shifts now. He no longer wears a body. He wears an idea, a creature of silk, steel, and sensation. He can take any shape, except that of what he once was. He fears that shape. He fears the reflection of the man who failed to become more, the man who was once beloved, not by adoration, but by design. There are worlds that pray to him now, cathedrals made of mirrors, altars shaped like his face, psalms written in blood and sung in perfect harmony. They worship him because he is beautiful, but they do not love him. Because he cannot be loved, only consumed. He inspires awe and emptiness, desire and despair. He offers transcendence and delivers madness. And when the ecstasy ends, there is only silence, and he is terrified of it, because in the silence he hears himself. The demon within wears his shape, speaks with his voice. But I wonder if Fulgrim still watches, somewhere behind the eyes, if there is still a soul, suffocating beneath divinity. I see him more clearly now than ever before, because I see him without hope, without anger, only as he is. A mirror shattered and reassembled by liars. He was the most radiant of them, and that radiance blinded him. Now it blinds others. A torch turned inwards, burning everything it once illuminated. Fulgrim still believes he is becoming something greater, that each act of destruction is art, that each conquered soul is a brushstroke, that each scream is applause. But perfection is not evolution. Perfection is stagnation in disguise, a death spiral made to look like flight. And Fulgrim is falling, beautifully, gracefully, endlessly. Somewhere in the eye of terror, Fulgrim still dances, still sings, still paints. He tells himself the galaxy adores him, that I adore him, that the mirror has never broken, but I see him. I see through every mask, every smile, every whisper, and I know. He is not performing for Slaanesh. He is not performing for mortals. He is still performing for me. And I will never applaud.